I'd like to dedicate this Dvar Torah in memory of my mother, Shenya Bas Moshe, whose unveiling of her matzeva is Sunday, April 11th. I'd like to address the notion of speech creates the reality, namely the physical and spiritual consequences of speech. As we embark on Pashas Tazria Metzora, we know that the trigger for the afflictions of a Metzora are due to Lashon Hara, other violations of speech. I want to focus on a particular aspect of speech, namely that of being judgmental and its consequences. We started Pirkei Avos yesterday, and the last phrase in Mishnah Vav states as follows: "Ve'hevedon es kol ha'adam lekaf, that you shall judge all individuals meritoriously." This is generally taken to mean that if one observes someone doing something that's questionable, you should give him the benefit of the doubt and judge him favorably. On the surface, this appears compatible with the American judicial notion that a person is innocent until proven guilty. So, for example, if someone sees a fellow Jew walk into a McDonald's, you can say, "Oh, I didn't know he's into cheeseburgers," or you can give him the benefit of the doubt and say something, he probably went to get some change or went to get a soda. Rav Shlomo of Radomsk, the founder of the Radomsk Hasidic dynasty, in his sefer Tiferet Shlomo, poses the following question: what difference does it really make how we judge someone? After all, God knows the true nature of the behavior in question. If one is guilty, then what is the effect of our favorable judgment? You can say, "I'm not a nice guy," but what difference does it really make? In response to this question, he presents an analysis on the power of speech. He develops the theme that our verbal behavior in this world yields direct consequences in the upper spiritual worlds, both in positive and negative terms. He cites the Zohar, the fundamental mystical text attributed to the Tana, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, written almost 2,000 years ago, who posits the following working principle of the universe, namely, every word which we utter about someone directly influences the likelihood of a decreed judgment in the upper world being actualized in this world. Thus, human judgment, as manifested through our speech, can serve to accelerate or prevent the implementation of God's decree. As evidence for this awe-inspiring principle, he cites a famous Talmudic discourse in Tractate Chagiga, page 15b. The Gemara relates a dialogue between the sage Rabba Bar Shila and his meeting of Eliyahu Navi. And they engage in the following dialogue. Rabba asks Eliyahu, "My Ovid Kuchbarichu, what does the Kadosh Baruch Hu do?" So he says, "Ka'amar shmaitase mipume dekul rabbanan." Kadosh Baruch Hu studies Torah by quoting all the rabbis and the rabbinical statements in this world, except for Rabbi Meir. He does not quote Rabbi Meir, so he asks him why. So he said, "The Kagomar Shmaitase Mipume the Acher." Rabbi Meir's Rebbe was Acher, namely Elisha ben Avuya. He's called Acher, meaning the other one, because he later on became a heretic. So Rabbi asks Eliyahu Navi, "What's God's problem?" Rabbi Meir Rimon Matzah. Rabbi Meir found a pomegranate. Tocha achal, he only ate its inside, namely the positive aspect of the fruit. And Klipasa Zarak, he threw out the shell, the negativity. So answers Eliyahu Navi, "You have a good point here. Hashta ka'amar Meir b'ni Omer." Going forward, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to quote Rabbi Meir, and he's going to say, "Meir, my son, says as follows." So essentially, he was challenging God's position by stating that Rabbi Meir was discriminating in his studies and only internalized the positive teaching of Acher and rejecting what might have been unacceptable. The obvious question is, Hashem, being all-knowing, was certainly aware of Rabbi Meir's lofty spiritual level and his discerning nature and his really not internalizing all the negative teaching. Why did it have to wait for Rabba's statement for that effect to change Hashem's behavior, so to speak? The answer is that until Rabba's advocacy position was overtly verbalized in this world, that restrictive decree in the upper worlds could not be lifted on Rab Meir. In other words, an articulation of a meritorious judgment was necessary to counter a spiritual sanction. So similarly, on the negative side, if someone commits a sin in private, the heavenly courts may still be guided by leniency. However, once someone reveals his action via verbal testimony, a metaphysical chain reaction is propelled against that targeted individual. In other words, the arrow of the tongue accelerates spiritual prosecution process. So we see from here how speech creates the reality. And with this, the Radomsker Rebbe explains the Mishnah, when you're going to rebuke someone, don't state it explicitly. Say it in a roundabout way so that you don't enact the judgment. Let us all be sensitive to the power of speech. Thank you very much.